Hey guys, I'm back finally after a bit of a long break from YouTube. I don't know what it is about doing videos regularly on here, but it's something I really struggle with. So in the beginning of the year, I get that steam. I'm really happy to be, and then I don't know what it is. By the middle of the year, I'm just like challenged, to say the least. So I'm back, and I hope that I'll be able to steam it on through to the end of the year. And I'm going to be doing today my wrap up of June and July, since I think the last time I did a wrap up was in May. Yeah. So I have a few books here. It's been a very interesting reading month of June and July. I would say the majority of the books have been fantastic. And yeah, there's quite a variety. It's not just fiction, not just novels. So that's, good for me. And yeah, so I'm just going to tell you about that. Thanks for sticking in there, hanging in there, and coming over and watching. And, because I know the struggle is real. Yeah, the struggle is real for your girl. So let's get started. Okay, so I have my stack of books here. Nothing is in order. I'll try to let you know kind of sort of if I can remember when I read something. If I can't, oh well, I'll just be talking about the book. So we're going to talk about the first one, which is on my stack. And that is The Essential June Jordan. And this is the new modern classic that has come out. It came out, I think it came out at the very beginning of June. This was sent to me by Penguin, and oh my God. If you haven't read any of June Jordan's poems, I think you're missing out, especially if you're a big poetry lover. I'm a pretty decent poetry lover. I like it, especially if I get poems that I really, really enjoy reading. But here in this collection, you're going to get everything that is important. June Jordan was a big fighter for women's rights, gay rights, black rights, and she was very creative and an excellent poet, writer. I read one of her I guess you could call it a short form novel. I think it was a couple of years ago that I read it, and I thought it was really, really interesting, about a young boy who was like kind of sort of living on his own and trying to survive in poverty. And I thought it was really good while also being in love with a young woman. I found that book very, very interesting. That was the first one I read from her, and this is the second thing I've read from her, which is her poetry collection. Now I do have, I think here on my shelves, I have her biography. I think it's her biography. I'm not sure if it's a biography or autobiography. But that's definitely going to be probably on my list in November, for Nonfiction November, to read. This is something I've had hanging around for a while, and I just have not gotten to it. So this is the moment. So I highly recommend The Essential June Jordan. If you love poetry, you're going to love this one. You need to have this one in your collection. It is a must. Okay, next on my list, I have Knights of the Creaking Bed by Tony Khan. Okay, I love this cover. I just think this cover is so cool. This is a short story collection that is published by Cassava Republic. As you can see, it's called a Cassava Short. I went into this one because this was one of the two books that was proposed for the book club in the month of July. And in fact, the book that was chosen was Frying Plankton So we read that together, and I read this one on my own because I was, I loves me a Cassava Republic. And I thought this was really, really good. This was a collection of short stories that covers, I think, some different cultural issues or situations in Nigeria. And what I found interesting were the twists and turns of some of the stories and the forward writing of Tony Khan. Like, this is a really modern short story talking about some of the issues that could possibly happen within the culture of Nigeria. And the stories are told with, I would say, a very fresh and, kind of intriguing way of telling the story, in which you will always be interested. And I literally read right through this. I think I read this in a day and a half, because I just couldn't stay away from it. I mean, with each story, things got more and more interesting. Now, Tony Khan has also a novel that he wrote quite a few years ago called Carnivorous City, which I also have on my shelf, which I'm probably going to read before the end of the year because, yeah, Tony Khan has, he got it going in this one. Next book on my list is Somebody's Daughter, a memoir by Ashley C. Ford. So if you don't know who Ashley C. Ford is, here she is right here. All right. Now, I've been following Ashley C. Ford over on Instagram like forever. And I really, really enjoy her post and just her as a person. I just think she's very interesting. And when I heard she was writing her memoir, I was like, Lord Jesus, I need to get this book. So I managed to pick up the book, and as soon as it came, I read it almost within the week that I got it. It's quite short. It's hovering around, it's very short. 210 pages. Baby, this right here, I shed a tear. I really shed a tear, and I feel like it's because I can relate to some of the way she talks about being a young girl and her childhood and her relationship with her mother. Whew, girl, I just found it really, really interesting. And I found it like she bared her soul in this particular work. I mean, yeah, she bared her soul in this book. I find that I'm always intrigued at how writers can write such personal things about their family and not get reactions from the family, because like we always say, there's always two sides to a story. And usually with memoirs, there's a lot of that going on, because we can see Ashley C. Ford as she's growing up as this young black girl being raised by a single mom with her brother. And I feel like, yeah, you know how like when if you journal, you'll know this. You write in your journal, and if you're young and you're writing in your journal, you usually write like everything, like tit for tat, like he said this and she did that, and boy, she was a bitch, and blah blah blah. You write a lot of stuff like that. And what I liked about this is that Ashley C. Ford manages to globalize, or to get that feel of what it was really like and how it really felt for her to be a young girl growing up with her mother, reactions, situations. It's all very clear in her way of interpreting and writing it, and you can feel that there's a truth in what she's writing, that it's very real. I could relate. I related to some of the things that she was writing, and sometimes it brought water to my eyes. You know, I was like, oh my God. Very, very powerful short memoir, but well worth the read. It's a good discovery of this wonderful woman, Ashley C. Ford. Highly recommend this memoir. And if you're on Instagram, go follow her. She's the bomb. Next book I have on my list is Pleasant View by Celeste Mohammed. This book right here. This is a short story collection. Of course, it's Pleasant View, a novel and stories. Connected short stories. So we came out of the gate, Christy and I, over on Instagram, reading Pleasant View by Celeste Mohammed, because Christy has been on Celeste Mohammed for a long time. She's been reading her short stories in various different literary journals, and she told me, she said, girl, this book is coming out. We need to get this book and we need to discuss it. So got the book, except she had her book before me, and because I'm in France, I had to just settle for the ebook, the ebook over on, I think it was on Scribd, had the ebook. So I had to settle for that, but that's okay. I waited for this to come in to kind of reread bits of it again. So Christy and I shot off the month of June, which is Caribbean month. We shot off Caribbean month discussing Pleasant View, and oh my God, this book. All right, this woman, this is a book that's basically set in Trinidad, and the book has or discusses some different cultural issues within the island of Trinidad. And the themes of this particular book can range from various different things, from womanhood, trying to survive as a woman with nothing, working for people as a servant for a long time, and then the repercussions that fall out of that, being in a relationship with someone and having them change, or being in a relationship with someone that is not exactly what your family expects and having a strained relationship with them. Also, you have issues of slavery to a certain extent, prostitution. There's a lot of really heavy themes going on in this book. And basically what Celeste Mohammed does is she basically turns on us and gives us the not so nice side of living on an island. And she does it really well through these connected stories, because let me tell you, it flows so well. And you forget almost that you're reading short stories because it flows almost like a novel. Another good thing about this book is that discussing it with Celeste Mohammed was a very good experience, because it allowed us to dig a lot deeper into the story and to understand her writing craft and how she went about it. And one of the books that she cited as a book that she tried to help her be able to write these connected stories really well is Miguel Street by V.S. Naipaul. And that's another book that is on my TBR list, so that I can see that progression in connected short stories. I highly recommend this. This is a book that you should not miss if you're interested in reading something that is Caribbean. I highly recommend it. This is 5 stars. Definitely don't miss it. The next book on my list is How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones. Here is Cherie Jones right here. Cherie Jones was born in Barbados. And this story right here is, whoo, this is powerful. This one right here, we read for my Read So Lit Patreon book club. And we read this the month of July. This book right here was, no, we read this the month, sorry, excuse me. We read this book the month of June. I chose this book for us to read during the June Caribbean Heritage Month. And my God, like, I don't think we've had so much conversation and emotion through discussing and reading this book. Number one, I highly recommend it because as you're reading this book, what I feel like it has is it has this kind of tinge of a mystery to a certain extent, the way she writes it. And it feels like someone whispering a story to you in the dark. And I feel like that is the best way to describe it. It's as if though someone is in a closet hiding and is desperately needs to tell this story but cannot tell it out in a loud voice. So it's sort of whispering to you this tragic story in the dark. And I tell you, there was moments where I was like I was literally jaw dropped. And so hard-hitting, gut-wrenching, so traumatic. But she does a great job of linking the stories of women living on the island under different situations. Basically, she links them in the sense of saying that life is not always as easy as it looks living on the island of Barbados. Don't get it twisted. Okay, that's what she's trying to say. So for this one right here, you gotta get your mind right. And I mean, you gotta get your mind right. I'm not even exaggerating on this one. But I must say the writing is excellent. And the storytelling is also very intriguing and engrossing. So here again, you have somebody who has the beauty of the craft, but also knows how to tell a story that actually tells you something and also keeps you interested. Highly recommend this one. It's like a 4.5 for me. I highly recommend this one. I highly recommend this one. It's a 4 to a 4.5 star for me. Don't miss out on this one. And on top of all of this, this is a debut novel, people. And it also is shortlisted for the Women's Prize. Frankly speaking, I hope this one right here wins. Okay, the next book on my list is this one right here, Frying Plankton by Zalika Reed Benta. And this one we read in the month of July for the Read So Lit Patreon book club. And this one was, I wasn't really feeling this one. This is the story of Cara Davis, who is living in Canada, but she is of Jamaican heritage. So we have the story of her living with her mother in Canada, and her grandfather and grandmother live also not so far away. And we get a sort of vignette, because this is also considered to be short stories, but we get, they feel like vignettes of this family, but also vignettes of Cara at school with her classmates. This book particularly has a problem that things don't connect. They feel very disjointed, and we don't get enough of the real impressions or feelings of the main character, although a lot of the story is told in the first person. And that's what I find, or that's what I found and the book club ladies found very strange about this particular book, because you could almost say it's sort of like a coming of age novel. So we see her come of age, but a lot of the vignettes, we scratch our heads because we don't really understand what's it all about. So for me, I wouldn't really recommend this one. I didn't enjoy it at all. I just thought it was okay. So I would say that Zalika Reed Benta has craft, like she can write, but like her storytelling is terrible. It's really terrible, because some of the connections that we thought she could have made, because they're pretty obvious connections, she didn't even make, and they don't really make sense that she doesn't make these connections. And not only that, but at some point in the novel, I would say I was midway through, and I just didn't care anymore what happened to this girl, what is going on with her family. Actually, the most interesting characters in the book were the grandparents, because they are the first generation Jamaican descendants of the family. And their relationship has a bit of they're not loving each other at the moment, the grandparents. So there's a lot of scenes that are very funny and, but that are not actually explained too much. And it's disappointing because there's a story there. Not only that, even the mother's story isn't totally explained either, nor the connection between the mother and her mother. So the mother and the grandmother. There's no connection. She doesn't explain anything about that. She just drops little crumbs here and there, but there are no real explanations about the mother's life and, how she's living it and what she's feeling. What's missing out of this book is emotion and understanding of the characters. So this is why I wound up giving this one like a 2-star. Next on my list, I have this vintage edition of Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens. Yes, this was quite the chunker to read. I think this one I read the month of July as well. This one I buddy read with Peta from Comfy Cozy Up. I'm sure you saw her video where she talked about this. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. Oh, girl, Dickens be putting you through it. This is an interesting story because it's kind of starts off like with this kind of classic way that Dickens does, which is, the main character is Nicholas Nickleby, and he's this young man with his sister and mother, and his father has just died. They're broke because the father lost all their money in a bad investment. And literally the father dies of a broken heart because he can no longer, take care of his family properly and everything. So you get this journey of this family. And let me tell you, he had me hollering laughing in some parts of this book. It was really funny. But it's really good. It's a real roller coaster ride, even more so than usual, I think. But it's all worth it. It's all worth the 830 pages. Trust me, it's worth it. I love the banter in here between some of the characters. Just brilliant. I love the character of Nicholas Nickleby. He got spunk. I love his sister. She kind of got spunk too, even though she can't have too much spunk because, it is 19th century. But yeah, it has, and they even have the mother who's a bit, ditzy. It's good. It's really good. This is one that I think I've liked the most, maybe. It's really good. And I think it's also satisfying because sometimes with Dickens, you have like these moments where there are a lot of down points when the book is really long. But in this one, I think there was maybe only 1 or 2 down points, and they weren't very many pages. So I highly recommend this one. I thought it was good. Okay, the next book I have on my list is this one, which is Outlandish Blues. This is by Honorée Fanonne Jeffers. Here she is right here, Honorée Fanonne Jeffers. Now, Honorée has a new book that just came out, her debut novel, because Honorée is a poet, but this will be her first novel, and it's called The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. It's 800-page novel. Like, come on now. We got to get this novel, because they don't publish a lot of black authors over, 500 pages, 400 pages. At least black American, authors. And it's supposed to be fantastic. I can't wait to get it, but I'm not getting my copy until January when it comes out here in Europe, particularly in the UK. I do not want the Oprah sticker on there, so I'm waiting until 2022, January 20th, to pick up the book. Be that as it may, this one right here is a poetry collection, and it covers a lot of ground in themes. So we're talking about a bit of slavery, we're talking about personal experience, but not only personal experience, we're talking about collective experience as black people. She has a way of writing that is so lyrical. I mean, it almost could be passed off as something that you could do as spoken word poetry. She's very talented with words, and she very much knows what kind of theme or what kind of meaning she wants to convey within the poetry. So she's very good at choosing the right words and the right way about going about saying things. I highly recommend this one. This is not new. This one is one of her backlisted books. This one is specifically from 2003, but that's okay. It's slim, it's beautiful, and I highly recommend it. Next one on my list is this one right here, which is called Je suis quelqu'un by Aminata Edera. All right, this one is a book that I read in French, and I read this, I think it's the month of June. I read it for a publishing company. They wanted my opinion on the book. I read this one, and I read it in a fairly short period of time, like maybe 5 days. And I went into it with gusto. The beginning of the book starts with a father and daughter having coffee in a coffee shop, and the father drops a bombshell on the daughter by saying that her mother had an affair and had a baby for the man that she was having an affair with, and then went and started to blame the daughter. So this is where things get sticky, and we have this family story which is around the idea of, it starts off around this idea of this affair that the mother has. The parents are separated, and you have families in different countries, living in different countries. So you have family living in France, family living in Italy, family living in Dakar, family living in, I think, in Spain. But as they're living in all these different places, they're not very close to a certain extent, but yet they do all of the expected family things. The book is, as I read it, it felt more like it was going off on these tangents of themes having to do with racism in France, racism in other places, how black people live. Then it had a theme of, how relationships affect people and how people change through relationships. But not only that, the author was always dropping in lines from Frantz Fanon, from other philosophers, other philosophical themes, And what wound up happening was she lost her story. She can write, she has craft, but she cannot tell a story. And once I would say I was 40%, not even 35 or 40% into the book, I figured out the plot and the little trope. I figured it out. And it's kind of evident. You would have to be mad not to figure this out. But not only that, I got bored really quickly because I have not read any Frantz Fanon. I want to, but I haven't read any. And not only that, I kept getting schooled on, this should be happening and that should be happening and philosophical this, that, and the other. And the story of this family kind of got lost in the cracks. So I was not a fan of this one. I gave it 2 stars. I would probably not read another book by her because I feel like she was only writing with an agenda to talk about some philosophical and political issues more than writing a story about a family. The story of the family was secondary to all the rest of that. So it was a no for me. So the last thing on my list is this one right here, which is The Old Drift, which is by Namwali Serpell. And this is her right here. She is a very talented young Zambian writer. I highly recommend this book. We read this in July, yeah, for the Read So Lit Read Along book. And this was quite the chunker, weighing in at 630 something pages. But let me tell you, it was all worth it. Literary fiction at its finest, writing top notch, storyline phenomenal. I can't even tell you, I don't even know where to start with this one. It's basically a story that covers the change and development of Zambia through the stories of three families: a black family, a brown family, and a white family. And through these families, we see the connections and changes and aspirations and everything going on with the country while looking into the depths of these 3 different families. The characters are all very larger than life to a certain extent. There's a little bit of magical realism in there. This may be troubling to some people. Now, I'm not a fan of magical realism, but you know what? Your girl loved it. So good. I enjoyed going through this book, reading it, learning things about Zambia, looking things up, discovering the new characters, getting mad at some of the characters, laughing, enjoying the excellent dialogue that she writes. Just a wonderful, wonderful, one of those epic kind of novels. The only thing that didn't work for me was the end. I think she kind of went a little crazy on the end. But other than that, I highly recommend it if you like a good literary fiction, larger than life kind of book. There's another book that kind of reminds me of the scope of this book with this family situation, and that's Bark Skins by Annie Proulx. If you haven't read that one, that's another one that's really good too, because that book is also very big, but it's 2 families and it's in Canada, massive scope, very similar, except this is Zambian. So if you're looking to expand on your African lit, this is one I highly recommend. And Serpell is coming out, I think, with her 2nd book at some point next year. I cannot wait. And I'm sure that I will reread this one in the future. It was just that good. So that's it. Those are all the great books that I read in June and July. I hope you enjoyed this. Bear with me. I'll be coming with the wrap up of August sometime at the beginning of September. And yeah, this has just been great coming back, getting into the video. And again, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you real soon with another video. Bye-bye.